is Martin Ballard. Welcome to episode 20. I thought it might be a good idea this time to share my thoughts with you on why for the very first time I can remember I'm reluctant to book a Walt Disney World vacation. We've been to Orlando numerous times since the late 1980s, staying on property at Caribbean Beach Resort a couple of times, Coronado Springs, Animal Kingdom Lodge and so on. We've also stayed off property as well at various resorts along International Drive and around Lake Buena Vista. Now when we first visited Orlando, it was easy to fit in the Disney parks, Universal Studios, SeaWorld, the Kennedy Space Center and one or two other theme parks and attractions. Times have certainly changed. So why now would any Disney park fan, particularly from the UK, be thinking twice about returning in the next year or so? After all, it is the 50th birthday, there are so many celebrations, special events and brand new rides opening. Before we get into all of that, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you possibly can, like any of the videos you see here and make sure you ring that notification bell so that you're informed of any future videos. Okay, let's get right into it. At the moment then, why would any Brits be thinking twice about returning to the magic?
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through 5 reasons why Brits might be thinking about staying away from Florida for the time being and maybe for some time in the future as well. Now many of these are for financial reasons, and with that in mind, at the very end I'll give you a breakdown, an idea if you like, of how much it might cost a family of 4 travelling to Walt Disney World and staying on property in June of 2022. The first reason though, it does have financial implications, but it's far-reaching, and that is COVID-19. Now, wherever you're travelling in the world at the moment, COVID-19 could affect your holiday. Travel companies are really struggling with that, and they are really trying everything they can to get people back onto flights, travelling the world, and travelling in safety and with confidence. But there are reasons why some people might be reluctant to fly at the moment. The first is the fact that it's so unpredictable. Even if you book a holiday now to a place that is on the green list, before you travel it could be an amber list or a red list, or even while you're there it could change. And we've heard recently of families who've travelled to foreign countries, been there for a day, maybe just less than a day. The country or the resort they're going to is added to the amber or red list while they're there, and they then have to either quarantine or immediately fly home. Now I mentioned that holiday companies are doing everything they can, offering you refunds where they can and a chance to rebook holidays that are cancelled. So you have some sort of security, but there are other financial implications of course, aren't there? Firstly, if you have to come home and you have to quarantine, particularly if you're self-employed, that can have a financial implication in terms of loss of earnings and so on. Also, you might want to consider taking out a different travel insurance policy with extra COVID-19 cover that can help you with those financial implications should you have problems with a cancelled holiday or similar. But of course, any policy with extra COVID-19 cover may be more expensive to buy in the first place, so you need to consider that. Shop around and get the best deal for you. There are minor things as well that some people might be concerned about, whether or not there is a mask wearing policy in the parks, indoors or outdoors, or maybe even both. Some people have said they can't imagine walking around the parks on a very hot and humid summer afternoon with a mask on, and I can understand that. Some people may find it claustrophobic in any case. And then of course there are the general health implications, whether you have been vaccinated or not, whether you choose to be vaccinated or not. Do you want to put yourself in that situation? We've heard an awful lot about the rates of COVID-19 in Florida and in Orlando in particular, not least because of all the travellers that go there on a daily basis. So some people are reluctant to even go to the country for that reason, because they feel they may be vulnerable, particularly if they have underlying illnesses and so on. So that's another consideration. And finally on this subject, don't rule out the fact that even if borders open, they can close again with COVID-19 spikes, so you may not even be able to fly into the country. And we talked about mask wearing, but don't rule out in the future the possibility of having to have COVID-19 vaccination passports. It may not be possible to enter the parks without them in the future. Now, even if you are a Walt Disney World fanatic and you do want to book a holiday to go back to the parks in Orlando, you may be thinking about doing it in a totally different way. For a number of years, people who are real Disney fans would always try to get the best deal to stay on property because of the many perks you would get if you stayed at a Walt Disney World resort. One of those perks was free parking at your resort and free parking at the parks. So you could pick up a hire car at the airport, drive to your resort and park there every day, and at the parks every day if you went every day for your entire holiday, absolutely free of charge. Sadly, that's no longer the case. Since your last holiday, those parking charges have been introduced on a daily basis and at varying rates depending on which Walt Disney World resort you are staying at. Now, at the time of recording, the parking charges at value resorts was $15 a day. It was $20 a day at moderate resorts and $25 a day at deluxe resorts. Now, don't forget, you will not have to pay parking at the parks if you're staying on property, which of course you will have to pay if you're staying off property. But of course, very often you may be able to find a good hotel with a good deal off property that has free parking. Now, this actually links in as well to the third reason why you might want to stay away. There are some people who don't want to drive on their holiday, who just want to get to the airport, get on the Magical Express, for instance, to take them to their Walt Disney World resort and use Disney transportation to the parks each and every day. Sadly, the Magical Express is no more, so that has a cost implication for you, because then you might think, oh, I need to hire a car and then I need to pay the parking rates at the hotel every day, or I need to get an Uber, a minibus or a taxi or something similar. These are all added cost implications. And bear in mind that the base level for your holiday, the basic charges for hotel accommodation and park tickets, has also gone up. So you're starting from an increased base level anyway, with these various extra charges added on. And that brings us to the fourth reason why some people may decide to stay away from Disney altogether, or stay away from the Disney hotels, because the hotel prices have increased substantially. Now, other hotels off property may well have increased as well, but on a general search and comparing prices, there are hotels with much better deals off property than on property. And bear in mind that many of those perks that I mentioned for staying on property are no longer there, and we'll come to another one in a moment's time. Looking at some of the hotels that I've stayed at before in Lake Buena Vista and at the top of International Drive, you can get a very high standard hotel, maybe comparable to a moderate at Disney or sometimes even luxury, for a much better price. And then you'd have to consider using the hotel shuttle maybe to get yourself to Disney, to go to the parks and so on. But that might be more cost effective than staying on property. So even those people who decide they do want to go to Walt Disney World may now be thinking, but I'm not staying on property. There are villa options and all sorts of other things you can consider as well to save money, because there are other areas where you're going to have to be paying more money and you can't avoid them. And that brings us on to reason number 5, and this is the one that I find the most annoying and frustrating. You'll have heard by now about the new Disney Genie app and Genie Plus app. The first one, Genie, is fabulous. I have no complaints about that whatsoever. It's generally what you would have had before with my Disney experience. However, it's more intuitive, it has extra tools, things like booking restaurants and mobile ordering and stuff like that is on there. But also, if you allow it, it will organise your day for you. Now, some people might think that takes the spontaneity out of it. Others might think, well, we may get more done that way, because it's so intuitive. It looks at wait times on rides, it will adapt during the day, it will effectively plan your day and your route through the park. And that is a fantastic choice, and that is free of charge. However, Genie Plus effectively means fast passes have gone, so you will be paying extra for what they're now calling the Lightning Lane. Not only does it add cost, but it removes the perk of being able to reserve fast passes before people staying off property. That's another perk you are losing, and in fact you can't even make reservations in advance anymore. You can only make one reservation at a time on the day that you're visiting the park, and that through Genie Plus will cost you $15 per day per person. But not only that, the newest and most popular rides, I'm talking about things like Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, Remy's Ratatouille Adventure and so on, they are not included. You cannot book those in advance using Genie Plus. You have to pay an extra charge to book Lightning Lane passes for those, on top of the $15 a day you will have already paid for Genie Plus and the initial Lightning Lane reservation system. That is a substantial game changer for me in terms of the amount of money you might be paying on your holiday. Now, there are lots and lots of videos around on YouTube explaining all of the minute detail on Genie and Genie Plus. I haven't told you everything. You may know most of it already. If you don't, then check them out. Check the small print, have a look at all the detail. And you may well disagree with me. You may think it's a brilliant idea, because one of the things that people have been saying for a while at Disney parks in Orlando is it's too crowded. But what effect will that have on the standby lines, for instance? We don't know until it's actually happened and parks are up to full capacity again. But the cost implications are staggering. So with all of that in mind, I decided to take a look at, for a family of 4, remember Walt Disney created the parks in the first place so that families could enjoy the magic together, because parks like that didn't exist until Disneyland and then subsequent Disney parks and others around the world. So the key for Walt Disney was the family. So with that in mind, I've taken a family of 4 and taken an average price from Holiday Brochure travelling to Orlando and staying on Disney property in June of 2022. Now, included in the price is the holiday itself. The baseline holiday, staying at an all-star resort at Walt Disney World, is £6,267.06. I've added to that because don't forget you will get a free car. According to the brochures, you always get a free car, but you have to pay for the car insurance, which for a family of 4 would probably be a small SUV or similar, and the insurance on that will be £645.63. These are all based on a 14-night holiday, by the way. Also included in that are the tickets as well, for 4 people, 2 adults and 2 children. There is a deal at the moment from the UK to get, with Virgin Holidays and others, a 14-day ticket for the price of a 7-day ticket. In actual fact, there isn't that much difference between the two prices anyway. But adding the car insurance and the ticket prices to that initial price of the holiday brings it up to £6,912.69. Now, those extra charges that we mentioned, daily parking, $15 a day for 14 days at your resort is $210. Then Genie Plus, which will give you the opportunity to book those Lightning Lane passes each day. That will be $60 a day for 4 people. That's 2 adults and 2 children. $60 a day. Now, I've done that for 8 days because I'm suggesting that you may only want those for maybe 2 trips to each of the parks. Think of the cost implications if you had $60 a day for the whole 14-day holiday. But over 8 days, that would be a charge of something like $480, around £501. So, adding all of this together, the total cost of this holiday for 4 people, 2 adults and 2 children, would be £7,411, or $10,188. And don't forget, that doesn't include those extra rides like Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, for instance, the e-ticket rides if you want to call them that you'll have to pay extra costs for if you want to use the Lightning Lane. They're not included in the Genie Plus payment that you've already made. Now that is an interesting one as well, because depending on what time of year you travel, the prices for those may be different. So in low season they may charge you an extra $15 for Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. In peak season it might be $20 or possibly even higher. That's something that we don't really know yet until the whole thing has been in operation for a little while. So there are lots of reasons why Brits might decide to stay away from Walt Disney World at the moment, and there are one or two other things that you need to keep an eye on as well. There has been talk of a rail link between Orlando International Airport and Disney Springs, which would help with that transportation issue and the fact that there's no longer a Magical Express. And also TUI, one of the biggest travel companies taking Brits to Florida and Walt Disney World every year, are now flying into Melbourne Orlando International and not Sanford. So bear that in mind if you didn't know that already. Melbourne Orlando International is situated right across on the Space Coast, just south of Cocoa Beach. And I reckon even if you know where you're going, or if you have sat-nav in the car that you're using and hiring, it will take you about an hour and 25 minutes from there to get to Walt Disney World property. So do bear that in mind as well, although TUI and other operators that fly into Melbourne Orlando International may offer transfer options of their own. And finally, the sad thing for me is that, of course, Walt Disney World, Disneyland in California, the first park that Walt Disney ever created, was created, he said, so that families could have fun together, because none of those parks existed until that time. Now, of course, families from the UK can still go to Walt Disney World and they can still have fun together, but at what cost? And how many families will simply not be able to afford to go anymore, given all of the changes that I've mentioned already?
Well, I'm afraid that's about all from this episode. Don't forget to check out the other videos on the channel featuring all of the parks in Orlando, plus lots of other American and European parks as well. In fact, some parks that no longer exist, like Cypress Gardens and Opryland USA, plus some top tips, hints and other ideas. Now, if you enjoy any of the videos on the channel, make sure you click on the like button, ring that notification bell so that you don't miss any future videos, and make sure you subscribe too. And in the meantime, I'll see you next time for the next episode of Main Street Martin.